The 2020 NBA season was the year of 5-out offense. The Dallas Mavericks finished the regular season with the most efficient offense in NBA history, scoring 1.16 points per possession. And they did it by spacing a 7'3" center out on the perimeter.
Our numbers are very substantial that when he spaces beyond the three-point line, you know, we're a historically good offensive team. And when any of our guys go in there, you know, our effectiveness is diminished exponentially.
Then in the playoff bubble, the Heat unexpectedly made it all the way to the NBA Finals, with an offense that often used their center Bam Adebayo as a facilitator out on the perimeter. A lot of coaches talk about how styles of play and concepts flow down from the NBA to other levels. Tom Thibodeau started icing ball screens, for example, and then it eventually trickled down to college and high school afterwards. So absolutely, that is sometimes the case. But the truth is, it's not really that simple. Here's a University of Richmond practice from back in 2009. The Spiders are practicing their Princeton offense without any defense. After running through the point series, check out what they immediately flow into: 5-out. By comparison, the Lakers were busy in 2009 winning an NBA championship while running the triangle offense, which, with its post-up options, is kind of the opposite of 5-out.
Who's running the triangle now? Has anybody seen anybody run the triangle offense? The triple post? If you do, raise your hand, because I want to see who you are, all right? Because I haven't seen it. That offense is extinct.
You could maybe even make the case that some college coaches have historically been ahead of the NBA when it comes to offense and spacing. But to be fair, it was mostly out of necessity from teams that were lacking size. NCAA teams also always shot more threes than NBA teams, but the gap has narrowed over the years. And the NBA has really embraced the spacing and analytics movement recently. There's also over 350 Division I college teams, so naturally the range and style can be pretty drastic. There are schools with unique offenses like a Richmond or Davidson's 5-out motion that have been way ahead of the curve, but in general the blue bloods and the top teams at the sport like Kentucky or North Carolina have lagged behind. That's where that NBA trickle-down has started to have a major effect. This season alone, we've seen elite college programs like Kansas, Virginia, and Michigan experiment with 5-out. We have a lot coming in this video. I'll show you the statistical impact of playing 5-out, some of the most popular X's and O's and concepts used by 5-out teams, how defenses guard it, and why you should play with 5-out, or in some cases even shouldn't play with 5-out. I'll cover a bunch of different teams: Alabama, Nebraska, BYU, West Virginia, Virginia, Gonzaga, Northern Iowa, Xavier, Michigan, and several more. Like, subscribe, all of that, and let's get right into it. Using a 5-out offense tends to have a direct statistical impact on a team. At the high major level, two coaches with very extreme 5-out styles are Nate Oates at Alabama and Fred Hoiberg at Nebraska. When Nate Oates was hired by Alabama, he inherited a team that the year before had an average offensive possession length of 17 seconds and 37% of their shots were from 3. After Oates got the job, Alabama possessions lasted 15 seconds and 49% of their shots were from 3. The same thing happened at Nebraska. The year before Hoiberg, they were below average in offensive pace. With Hoiberg, they finished 5th in the country. There's a bunch of reasons why pace and space correlates to 5-out offense, but the most obvious simply starts with transition. Teams like Nebraska and Alabama spread out on the perimeter and look to spray the ball to three-point shooters or attack the open paint in transition. One thing that's important to note is it's not like the pace and space just immediately led to success. Nebraska has been the worst team in the Big Ten in Hoiberg's 2 seasons so far. They went 2-18 in the league in his first year. Alabama went just 8-10 in the SEC in Oates' first year, although they have been playing really well recently, including a big road win at Tennessee where they really doubled down on their style of play against Tennessee's normally dominant defense, spreading out the court, choosing a mismatch, and letting guys like Javon Quinterly isolate. It's similar in style to the Houston Rockets, and it's also another reason for the fast pace. Fewer passes and more isolation tends to lead to quicker possessions. Here's Nebraska's very first possession of this season. Watch how the only reason anyone goes inside the three-point line is to either drive the ball or temporarily cut and then space right back out to the 3. With the 5 at the top of the key and the paint wide open, basket cuts are especially effective within the 5-out spaces. Some teams will have structured cuts and slips that they are purposely looking for. Others use more random read and react principles. Split cuts or split action is also very common for 5-out teams. Here you can see Xavier comes together on the split, and their bottom player almost always rejects, moving into the paint to then receive a screen to exit out to the weak side corner. There are a lot of elements from the Princeton offense going on here, and for some teams, 5-out concepts can be very similar to the Princeton point series. Zoom action is also very common in 5-out, with 2 guards interacting with each other just like on the split, but this time that bottom player zooms up to the top of the key for a dribble handoff. If you're interested in more of the details of these specific actions, our video on the 10 plays used by every college basketball team is a great place to start. The final action I want to point out is the stagger away. In this one, the 5 reverses the ball and sets a double screen for that player in the corner. They can pop for a 3, curl into the paint, or reject for a cut right to the basket. After all of the different cuts and movement we just saw, the spacing can then naturally become unbalanced, and that leads us to one of the most important parts of 5-out offenses, the empty ball screen. When the corner is empty with no one there, offenses will flow directly into this ball screen on the side of the floor, forcing the lowest defender to be in position to give help. Watch how Wagner is cutting through during the empty ball screen. His defender is the low man, but he's looking the other way because of the cut. Those empty ball screens can be tough for defenses focused on taking away the cuts and guarding the perimeter. Do you remember this action we saw earlier from Xavier where they reject the split and then exit out to the baseline? If we now put this all together, the split actually sets up an empty ball screen. That empty ball screen then makes the low defender worried about giving help, and then that exit screen takes advantage of that low defender worried about that help. It's all one big chess match. When defending Northwestern's 5-out offense, Pete Nance is Northwestern's 5-man and facilitator within their offense. Michigan made a small but interesting adjustment. Instead of putting their 7-footer Hunter Dickinson on the smaller and faster Nance, they put Franz Wagner on him instead. Wagner's not a post player, but he had the mobility to guard zoom action and ball screens out on the perimeter, and enough length to still compete in the post against Nance. If a defense has the versatility to make the matchups work, getting your slower 5-man off of the offensive playmaker is a good potential option. There's also another way to stop the 5-out, and that's simply by just making them pay on the other end of the floor. Here's Northwestern's coach Chris Collins talking about how he knows they'll be undersized on defense due to their offensive style.
You know, we'll try to figure it out. I know we're going to be playing against big, strong guys that we're going to have to figure it out on the other end at times, but maybe he can be a matchup problem for those guys on the other end.
Offenses like a 5-out or a continuity ball screen or Princeton also tend to produce poor offensive rebounding and foul drawing teams. With last season's Richmond team as an example, you can see they were elite at shooting and not turning the ball over, but very poor at the other 4 factors. And there's 2 main reasons why. To play 5-out or Princeton effectively, you need skilled players, especially big men. It's pretty hard to find passers and shooters that are on one hand skilled enough to play Princeton, and then also elite athletes and rebounders. And then of course the other reason is the spacing itself. With 5 players standing out on the perimeter, it's naturally harder to grab rebounds and draw fouls. West Virginia has been the exact opposite. Their spacing is downright ugly, but they were the best offensive rebounding team in the country last season, and they pressure you with those athletes on defense. Tennessee is another successful program going against that 5-out trend. Just like West Virginia, they're great at defending and rebounding. And when they had Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield, they were even an efficient shooting team, finishing top 25 in 2-point percentage despite pretty bad spacing. It's all about the players. Depending on personnel, 5-out is a great way to maximize an offense. But it's also not exactly for everybody. Last season, BYU was one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. They had great spacing out on the perimeter, and all 5 players on the court could shoot the 3. Their roster this season is completely different. Their bigs just aren't able to draw defenders out to the perimeter, so they've used different offensive concepts, often keeping a big in the paint instead and ducking them in for seals during ball screens. Virginia's the opposite story. Traditionally, the 5-man and Tony Bennett's offense has just been a screener, setting screens over and over again for the guards within their blocker-mover offense. But with 7-footer Jay Huff's unique skill set, Virginia has tried more 5-out looks this season, giving Huff a chance to drive mismatches on the perimeter. Austin Fife and Cam Krutwig are 2 mid-major bigs from Northern Iowa and Loyola Chicago that orchestrate 5-out offenses. They're both listed around 250 pounds and don't shoot threes, but they've proven to be effective playmakers with very good ball handling and vision for their size. But again, let me repeat myself, not every big should be facilitating offense out on the perimeter. You can also incorporate both the traditional and a 5-out style within the same offense. Watch how Fife posts up hard in the paint, but instead of holding his post for too long and stalling out the offense, he lifts up and initiates 5-out. That constantly lifting in and out of space concept was huge for Obi Toppin and Dayton last season. Gonzaga is another great example of a team incorporating both styles. They still sometimes play 2 bigs and use their traditional high-low action, but other times they go small with Corey Kispert at the 4 and use Drew Timme in some 5-out or spread ball screen situations. All of that being said, the reward has never been higher for playing with great spacing. With the way the 3-point line is now utilized, and all the benefits of having an open paint, the 99th percentile offenses, the elite of the elite, tend to spread the floor with great spacing. That absolutely does not mean there aren't other ways to win with offensive rebounding, defense, and bully ball. But the 5-out revolution is here to stay. If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll really enjoy our newsletter. A lot of the analysis for the video came from previous work done over there. Just by signing up, you'll receive the free Hoop Vision weekly newsletter every Friday. Or for the full Hoop Vision experience and analysis, and to support this channel, you can become a paid Hoop Vision Plus subscriber for our members-only content. Thank you for watching.
Look, let's get off of all this stuff about, KP needs to go in the post. He doesn't. He doesn't.